Everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, X, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. It is great to be with you on a Friday. Not just a, college football, NFL topic, coach firings, college football playoff Friday, but a show in which, ladies and gentlemen, we've got NFL playoff predictions. Very excited to be with you guys today. Chime in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. We're going to talk Miami's close, heart-stopping, down-to-the-wire win last night against the Ole Miss Rebels, why Miami is the picture-perfect example of why the college football playoff, this current system that we have, is absolutely perfect, with the exception of course, Tulane and James Madison getting in. We know that's a problem. Everybody who's honest knows that's an issue. Mike McDaniel has been fired by the Miami Dolphins. I don't necessarily agree with that. Get to that later on the show as well. Trae Young requested and got a trade to the Washington Wizards. I'm not kidding. This is a real story. Get to that. Ja Morant, looks like the Grizzlies are shopping him. The February 5th NBA deadline fast approaching. We're less than a month away from that. Not surprised at all by it. And, of course, the end of today's show. I love doing NFL predictions at the end of Friday shows. We've got 6 games to predict. All of them playoff games. All of them win or go home. I've had a goal my entire life doing this podcast of having an undefeated playoff start to finish, going, in this case, 13-0. In 2020 and in 2023, I went undefeated from the divisional round on. Never have gone start to finish unbeaten in a postseason, hoping to pull that feat off today, or starting today, I guess, and throughout the course of the next month. So I'm very excited to get in today's show. But first, the Miami Hurricanes are the perfect example of why the current college football playoff is flawless. With, of course, the exception of a Tulane and a James Madison getting in. We should have instead had a Notre Dame and a BYU. Regardless, is a system in which you are judged by your overall body of work, as opposed to one pelt on the wall, you're done. See, back in the old BCS system, you lost a Week 11 game on a walk-off field goal. Unless you're in the SEC, you're dead. Your season is over. Even the first initial college football playoff era, which came from the 2014 to the 2023 season, you had a situation like in 2023 where you had an argument for 3 teams to meet in that 4 seed. You had Alabama, who did get as the 4 seed, we lost 1 game to playoff Texas, won the SEC championship game against the defending national champion Georgia. We should be in. You had a Florida State team that said, yeah, we played a Power 5 conference and we literally won every single game we played. And then you had a Georgia team. It's like, we were the back-to-back national champions, number 1 team in the country all year long. We lose by 3 points to Bama and we're out. That was kind of an unjust system. Now, if you don't get in, sorry, sucks to be you, I guess. That's on you. In the case of Miami Hurricanes, oftentimes they, like a lot of people, a lot of successful people, industries, business, whatever the case may be, are judged on their worst moment. The Miami Hurricanes, by many, and I'll be honest, including myself at times, were judged on, lost at home to Louisville. Now, Louisville was like a good team, but not on the level of Miami talent-wise. You lost to SMU, playoff team last year, but not nearly as good in 2025. How does that happen? But then now, with yesterday's win against Ole Miss, which we'll get into kind of the game in just a second, they're 7-0 against ranked teams. 7-0. I mean, does that matter? Does that have any bearing? Does that hold any weight when we talk about who the best teams in America are? When some are still saying today, and I think kind of looks pretty foolish, hey, Notre Dame should have been in. Miami literally beat them. I mean, does the Week 1 game just not matter at all now? Sorry, Notre Dame, you don't play in a conference. You're not scheduling the big boys of the Big Ten or some of the good teams in the SEC. You've got a big dog in Miami, big dog in A&M. You lost to both, by the way. Miami beat both. Beat you, and of course beat Texas A&M in their first playoff game. And then you got a USC team that was good but not special. Lost a bowl game to TCU. Pitt, Miami crushed them too, so that negates that. Join a conference. Regardless, what this Miami team represents is what I think old school college football fans love. Pushing you around, dominating the line of scrimmage. Last night, that game, with the exception of the last second game-winning drive, I mean, margin of victory, 3 points or 4 points. I mean, the rushing differential, the offensive line play, last night looked very similar to that week 1 game against Notre Dame, where you look, you're like, oh gosh, close game. Ole Miss fought, they hung in there. There was multiple lead changes in the fourth quarter. Trinidad Chambliss made all kinds of plays. He was sensational last night. Oh, you got this kid, CJ Carr at Notre Dame. He's making some big throws. First start on the road at Hard Rock Stadium. But then you watch the game, you watch the film, and in some ways it's reflected in the box score, and you're like, oh, they had 191 rushing yards. Ole Miss had 121. They moved the football at will. They controlled the line of scrimmage. And this is with a game plan with Carson Beck, who, to his credit, came up clutch late. But a Carson Beck, I couldn't tell if I was watching the Miami Hurricanes or the Miami Dolphins, more of Mike McDaniel, about 10 minutes, where it's just it felt like 60% of the throws were behind the line of scrimmage. Matter of fact, I think mid-fourth quarter, Chris Fowler mentioned something like Miami hasn't completed a pass beyond the line of scrimmage in the second half because they don't trust Carson Beck. Because they've got this 18-year-old Malachi Toney who's, I mean, is he my height? Is he a little bit taller and cannot be brought to the ground? How many times did he break tackles in the first half when he got a first down on third down to keep a drive going? Or when he broke away for the touchdown in the fourth quarter? You've got the running back Fletcher, who I told you, if you don't know Mark Fletcher Jr.'s story, listen, Google it. His mom is the GOAT. Like, it's a great kid. Love the story. They push you around, both offensively and defensively. That's Mario Cristobal's MO. That's what's great about this new college football playoff. You are allowed room for error. We saw it literally last year with Ohio State. Ohio State mows through everybody, lose a close game to Oregon and Eugene. We're not going to punish them too much for that. And they lose at home to Michigan, a Wolverines team a year ago that could barely complete a 4 pass. Like, what? Huh? But their resume to that point, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you beat Penn State on the road. Like, oh, yeah, over the course of the year, you have shown yourself to be the best team or one of the best teams in the country. Lost to number 1 Oregon. You had a hiccup against Michigan. Like, it happens. Ohio State played with a chip on their shoulder, whether it was for the job security of Ryan Day, whatever the case may be. And they mowed over my Tennessee Volunteers, and they really mowed over Oregon in the Rose Bowl, beat Texas and beat Notre Dame in a semifinal national championship game. In the current NIL era, in the transfer portal era, where the scales have been balanced to a certain degree, and we'll get to this in the SEC in just a moment, to where there is not one conference just dominating everybody as it pertains to recruiting. NIL's level the playing field. Conference realignment. That's why we have the playoff system that we have. Again, I still think it could use some tinkering. I don't think that unless you are ranked in the top 12, if you win the Sun Belt Conference or the American Conference, that you should be an automatic bid, because for reasons that no one's entirely sure, Miami didn't have enough tiebreakers to get in the ACC championship game, but 7-5 Duke did. Get your act together, ACC. The committee, to their credit, judge Miami at their best. Because it's one thing, I've talked about this with the MVP debate, because folks have kind of looked at this with the Drake May, Matthew Stafford thing. And I've talked about that. May's regular counting stats are better. May and Stafford, against similar opponents, against common opponents, May's better. But against winning teams, against teams with against playoff teams, May's 1-2 with, I think, like 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Stafford's 4-3 with 20 touchdowns, 1 pick. It's something against Drake May. I think he's sensational, but that's why I give Matthew Stafford the league MVP. Same thing with Miami. Yeah, Notre Dame went a 10-game winning streak to end the season. Who the heck they beat? USC? USC was good, but are they that much better than SMU and Louisville? And so this new playoff format gives you room for error, gives you an opportunity. Man, sometimes you just have a bad day at the office. This is the system, again, with the exception of automatic bids, which we saw at the 11 and 12 seed with Tulane and James Madison. No business being among the 12 best teams of playoff, but that's a different discussion for a different day. You see a situation where, okay, the best team is decided. The champion is decided. Miami goes on the road to A&M, outplays the Aggies on the road in College Station, Kyle Field, one of the toughest places to go win a football game. They play an Ohio State, defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes team with extra time to prep, push them all over the field. And yesterday against Ole Miss, it took a game-winning drive. but they pushed Ole Miss all over the field, by and large. Credit to Ole Miss for putting up 27 points. I honestly, I didn't think they'd be able to do that. But Miami was a better team yesterday. There's no question about it. And they deserve to advance the next round. Again, as for Ole Miss, listen, honest to God, credit to those players in that program. To have gone through what they went through in the last month where, oh my gosh, 11-1, we're going to be in the playoff. This is going to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Ole Miss team in history. And our coach bails on us last second. And he's trying to purge the staff, his staff, I guess, to bring guys to LSU. I'm sure he's trying to purge our locker room, try and bring some Ole Miss players with them to Baton Rouge. And those guys band together to beat Tulane. Of course, they beat Tulane. Go to the Sugar Bowl, beat Georgia team that had just beaten them, handed their only loss before last night, and then give Miami all they can handle. A Miami team that, frankly, I think is better. There's a reason they were favored in the game. There's a reason they won the game. There's a reason that they won the line of scrimmage. They're a better football team. And so, but kudos, honest to God, that's as impressive a team effort as you will see. So kudos to Ole Miss. And listen, I'm really curious. Now that Ty Simpson is declared for the draft, I imagine, unless he just doesn't want to play for the Jets, which I don't blame you, Dante Moore, if you don't want to play for the Jets. No young quarterback does. But let's say it's Mendoza, Dante Moore, the clear two best quarterbacks in next year's draft. Then you've got Ty Simpson, who most have as like a late first-round prospect. If a team's desperate enough, hopefully not my Steelers, they'll draft him mid-first round. I'm really curious to see how Trinidad Chambliss is evaluated. The accuracy, by and large, pretty good. Able to make plays in and out of the pocket. Now, some of these extending plays, we saw this with Caleb Williams, with Kyler Murray. Like, you can do it to a degree in the NFL, not like you can in college. All right, you got big 6'4", 330-pound defensive tackles that can move out there. So, like, you can't pull the stuff in the NFL that you can in college. We know this. But if you give an opportunity, maybe sit for a year and a half behind a good veteran starter. I don't know, like if you're a Carolina Panthers, let's say you get the doors blown off you against the Rams. Do you take Trinidad Chambliss in the second round? I'd consider it. So, good kid too, great family. But Miami was without question the better team yesterday. Got some comments by my man Alfred Parsar Jr. Check out the Metropolitan Report. He says, Cap, the college football playoff system is flawed. Listen, it's certainly not perfect. It's flawed in the sense that, again, I think an automatic bid should not be a thing. I think it should be the 12 best teams. I think we should see a situation where strength of schedule does hold a certain amount of weight in this discussion, which by and large it does. James Madison should not be in the playoff. Respect to that program. They had an outstanding year, and I don't want to take any credit away from what they did. Same goes with Tulane. They're not one of the 12 best teams. If you line them up against the first two teams out, which were Notre Dame and BYU, they lose to both, probably badly. So, yeah, James Madison, Tulane were jokes. I agree, with the exception of that, which is a big exception. We need to change that. With the exception of that, it's may the best team win. Yeah, I mean, we also we had 10 great teams, all of which earned the right to compete in the playoff. May the best team win. And Miami's shown themselves to be that. Again, they're 7-0 against ranked teams. Like, that's got to matter. What do you do against big dogs? Miami said, we're LeVar Ball. Never lost. Tyler, put Texas in. Listen, if Texas hadn't lost to Florida, they would have been in. There's no question. Alfred, some conferences nowhere near as talented as others, like the Patriot League and the Mountain West. I mean, yeah, now, the only exceptions to that rule, for me, is when you have last year a Boise State. Now, the problem with Boise State was them getting a bye last year. Was a situation where if you win your conference championship game, automatic bye. If you're one of the top 4 highest-ranked conference champions, they changed that, thankfully. But Boise State, it's like, wait a second. We've got the best or second best player in the country. Our only loss was to eventual number 1 seed Oregon by a field goal, and we smoked everybody else? Okay, you show me. Oh, you can compete with the big dogs. You've earned the right to be in the playoff. You don't deserve a bye, but you deserve to be in 100%. Or like a UCF. Now they proved it after the fact, but remember that year UCF went undefeated and then beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl? It's like, oh gosh, should UCF have been in the playoff? Not in the 4-team one, but a 12-team, 100%. Like that to me is what needs to happen more. Is you need to have some of these teams from the American Conference, the Sun Belt, the Conference USA, some of these other the non-Power 4 conferences. Let's schedule games featuring them and the top teams in the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC. Let's see that. Because if you do stack up, if it's a situation where, oh gosh, the game's kind of in doubt with 5 minutes left, if you match up physically, okay, that's good enough for me. And then you smoke everybody else, win your conference. Okay. You've earned the right. But those are outlier teams though. That should not be the norm. Speaking of Miami, let's shift to the Miami Dolphins, who fired Mike McDaniel yesterday. So I don't want to say I was shocked by the firing because I wasn't shocked. I was shocked when the Browns fired Kevin Stefanski. I think that was idiotic on 1,000 levels. The Browns really think they can do better than him? Please. But in the case of Mike McDaniel, I'm really torn on it. Because on one hand, it's, okay, yeah, does he really command the presence of the locker room? We see his press conferences. He's not Dan Campbell. Like, he's not. He's not Sean McVay. He's not Mike Tomlin. He's not D'Amico Ryans at the podium. Like, that's not his MO. And on the other hand, the Miami Dolphins looked like, gosh, could they be in the running for like the number one pick? Like they start out the gates. What were they? 1-6. They were awful. And they ended up playing okay football down the stretch of this season. Well, they have winning 7 games this year. So they won, I guess, would that have been 6 of their last 10? That's something. They didn't quit on the coach. And to the credit of the coach, what's his, I've always said this, the mark of a half-decent coach. What's your side of the ball? How productive are they? So I've gotten Mike Tomlin on this year. Mike Tomlin, your defensive coach. Steelers have a 26th ranked defensive football and the worst fourth quarter defense in the entire NFL. Matter of fact, I think Doug Clawson said the Steelers are like the worst fourth quarter defense in NFL history, which is insane. Maybe among playoff teams. Point is, with Mike McDaniel's offense, Tyreek Hill's had a career year. Tyreek Hill, a couple of years ago, people were saying should be in the MVP discussion. Jalen Waddle's been a productive Pro Bowl caliber guy. You've gotten the best out of running backs like Raheem Mostert, guys like, what's my man's name? Devon Achane. Been solid. They spent money in free agency. You're just really limited in terms of what you can do at quarterback. I blame the Dolphins' offensive troubles more so on the now former GM in Chris Grier and Tua Tagovailoa, because Chris Grier looks at Tua, he sees, okay, this is a precision, strictly pocket passer, and you got him 2 deep threats. That doesn't seem to make sense. So what did Mike McDaniel say? Okay, we're going to run the football. I'm from the Kyle Shanahan tree. That's what I do. That's what the Dolphins did relatively effectively. And it's a lot of screen passes. A lot of throws behind the line of scrimmage. Kind of similar to what we saw last night with Carson Beck and the Miami Hurricanes. Didn't trust Tua to spread all over the field, nor should he have. Tua's garbage in cold weather. We've done that segment. Everybody feels like in every show has done that segment the last few years. So there were limitations of the quarterback position that Mike McDaniel worked with to a point where Tua deserves $55 million. He's a Pro Bowl level quarterback. Yeah, did he look like that before Mike McDaniel? So I'll be honest. I would not hire him as my next coach immediately. But here's who should hire him as fast as they possibly can. The Detroit Lions. Because the Detroit Lions, we all know, had Ben Johnson for 3 years, the whiz offensive coordinator, done okay in Chicago, to say the very least. He is the brilliant offensive mind we all thought him to be and the culture builder that folks in Chicago hoped. Then he bring in Johnny Morton, guy who's in the building, and it didn't work very well at all. Dan Campbell's calling plays at the end. It was a shell of the Ben Johnson offense. You got a chance to bring Mike McDaniel in, who, again, worked with Tua, made Tua a Pro Bowl caliber guy. Tua, I think a few years ago, led the league in passing. Had us thinking, could the Dolphins be Super Bowl contenders, even though they can't function in the cold? I'm not saying Mike McDaniel is completely not at fault or blameless in some of Miami's struggles. What I am saying is, it's not like he was dealt with a generationally talented young quarterback, rocket arm, all this potential, and he couldn't develop him. This wasn't Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams' first year. This wasn't the Colts with Andrew Luck, although Andrew Luck was pretty much close to developed already, but where they didn't get the most out of him. They didn't put the requisite talent, O-line, receivers around Andrew Luck. This was, gosh, Tua, we're starting to put bus label on Tua, and Mike McDaniel comes in, he's a Pro Bowl, and the Dolphins are in the playoffs back-to-back years. That's something. He's an offensive guy. The offense was pretty productive. Despite the limitations of quarterback, despite the limitations that said quarterback had to, influence Mike McDaniel's play calling to where it was a lot of screen passes, it was a lot of get the ball to your hands quick. So that to me is, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you'll never get a Ben Johnson ever again. They're like that's a once every decade kind of offensive coach. Johnny Morton wasn't the guy. Dan Campbell, great culture builder, not a great X's and O's guy. You get a chance to bring a guy from the Shanahan tree. Those guys tend to pan out by and large. Who got Tua to be a Pro Bowler, who got Miami to be to the playoffs back-to-back years. Have him call your offense with Goff, St. Brown, Laporta, Jamison Williams, Gibbs, Montgomery. Like, we know the players. We know about Detroit. They got to rebuild that offensive line in the offseason, but the weapons are there. Goff's a productive quarterback if he's got time to throw. So if the first thing I thought when I saw that, or I thought three things. Number one, that kind of surprised me because they didn't fire him on Monday or Tuesday. The second thing is, that's probably because the Ravens fired Harbaugh on Tuesday. The Dolphins fired McDaniel on Thursday. So the Dolphins, it feels like they're going after John Harbaugh. And the third thing I thought is, Lions get on the phone with this guy like right now. Now, I imagine Mike McDaniel will want to pursue potential head coach, offerings. Don't blame him in the slightest. But I think if those fall through and you're Detroit, that's your guy. That's the dude to bring in to call plays for your offense. Takes a lot of strain off Dan Campbell's shoulders. Fixes a real deficiency that they had a season ago. And Detroit's back in business. Again, Detroit's got one of the top GMs in the league in Brad Holmes. He'll do his thing in the draft and in free agency. You trust Brad Holmes to put the roster together. You trust Dan Campbell for culture. And Mike McDaniel can take care of the offensive play calling. And I think Detroit Lions can be right back in the NFC playoff picture in 2026. So just seeing the news, that's kind of what came in my mind as a guy who's been very pro Detroit Lions on the show. Alfred, Dolphins should trade Tua for a vending machine. Alfred, I don't know what they're going to get for Tua. Like, there's no way they keep him, right? They just fired the GM, just fired the coach. Tua, this is putting it kindly, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with his atrocious press conferences, ripping teammates and whatnot. Tua even said recently, hey, a fresh start. I think the word he used, he said, a fresh start for me would be dope. Is that if another team's going to take that how much time or how much does Tua, let me check Spot Rack real quick, live here on air and carving it up. Let's check Spot Rack on Tua's contract. Oh, hang on. On Tua's contract, see how much time he has left on it. When does that, is there like an option year in there somewhere? 4-year, $212 million deal. So they have a void year in 2029. So he's still got 3 solid years left of that deal in which he would make a base salary of $39 million, $31 million, and $41 million would Tua Tagovailoa. So moral of the story is if you're going to acquire Tua, I feel like you have to give Miami stuff. You've got to give them a draft pick. You've got to give them a solid starter, not like a Pro Bowl player, but a solid NFL starter because that is an albatross of a deal. It's the second worst contract in football to Deshaun Watson, in all likelihood. Tyler Reddington. Ravens just finished interview with Stefanski. I obviously hate the Ravens with a passion, of course. It would be kind of cool because, listen, I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm not delusional. The Ravens are a well-run franchise. Lamar's a great player. They're going to be fine in the long run. So Harbaugh's going to be fine. Ravens going to be fine. This is literally just like Andy Reid and the Eagles. Reid ended up having amazing success. So did Philly. Wouldn't it be great if the garbage, just trash organization that the Cleveland Browns are and have been my entire life fire a two-time coach of the year who got them their first playoff win in 3 decades, did it against Pittsburgh, by the way, with garbage quarterback play. If his reward for that, hey, you get great ownership in Baltimore, great GM. In Baltimore is Eric DeCosta. I could be wrong. I think that's the Ravens GM's name. You get this roster with Lamar Jackson, top 5 quarterback in the league, and you get to mop the Browns for the next decade. That would be kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. That'd be kind of cool. I hope Stefanski doesn't stay in division. Stefanski's the guy who beat my Steelers in Cleveland the last 4 years in a row and almost wrecked our season a couple weeks back before, thank God, Tyler Lute missed. So Stefanski, contrary to strange behavior on social media, strange belief on social media, Stefanski's a great coach. There's no question about it. Browns are indisputably going to be worse without him. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. But when we come back, couple NBA stories involving 2 young guards, one from the 2018 draft, one from the 2019 draft. One did get traded to the Wizards, who he wanted to trade for him, and the other plays for the Grizzlies, and they're probably going to trade him. Get to both of those stories, and of course, NFL playoff predictions. Cannot wait to get into all 6 wildcard games. All of that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere, folks. We will be right back. Back to Carving Up. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a playoff prediction Friday. We will get to my NFL postseason, not my entire bracket predictions. I'm not one of these people that does the whole bracket thing. I want to stick to just the 6 games this week, 4 next week, 2 in conference championship weekend, and of course the Super Bowl, the 13 playoff games that we have. So very excited to get into those in about 20 to 25 minutes or so. Before we get to the NBA stories, a couple orders of business, or I guess a few orders of business. Number 1. Tune in tomorrow morning to the Saturday morning tailgate. We're back after a few-week hiatus at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, live on the Grid Network via YouTube and on X. It will be myself and Arthur Hurst. Tim Barnard will not be available for the show tomorrow, but it'll be myself, Arthur Hurst, to react to the 2 college football playoff games, to talk about the Damon Williams story, the SEC, and their lack of dominance as of late. So very excited to get into all of those things. Also, as it relates to the SEC, I did want to bring this up because, reputation really carries you a long way. First impressions carry you a long way. And I'm 22 years old. For most of my life, man, and especially as a Vols fan, the SEC has been the power conference in college football. And it's still, even by television ratings, like that is the moneymaker. SEC football for these networks, for ESPN, ABC. It's why they signed the deal that they did a few years back and basically stole SEC television rights from CBS. Is that in the last few years, that's just not been the case. So this is going to be the 3rd straight year, folks, that an SEC team is going to miss the national championship game. And if you look back, if you look at bowl games, and if you look at non-conference college football playoff games, here you go. I mean, that's where the SEC's at today. The Big Ten is by a comfortable margin the best conference in college football. They have the 2023 national champion Michigan Wolverines, the 2024 national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, and worst case scenario, the Big Ten will have the national championship runner-up, be it Oregon or Indiana. Best case, a back-to-back champion coming out of their conference. The ACC is what it is. It's Miami and not much else, and the Big 12 it's mid. But let's put it this way. The gap between the SEC and the Big Ten is bigger than the gap between the SEC and the Big 12. Like, I think the SEC has a big advantage. Talent-wise, coaches, programs. On the Big 12, it is dwarfed today by the Big Ten, by the Ohio States, by the Indianas, by, the Oregons. At this point, the way USC's recruited as of late, holy moly, look out for the Trojans the next few years. Michigan with Winningham, good hire. Michigan's going to be good in the long run. I mean, we see it. Like, SEC had 1 non-conference win in this year's college football playoff, and it came against Tulane. I mean, like, come on. They have 0 Power 4 wins in the college football playoff in 2025, in 2026. Like, reputation has to kind of go out the door after a while when you're not living up to said reputation. Last order of business before we get to the NBA. Of course, check out our Carving It Up merch. Go ahead and scan that QR code to... I guess that's to my right. It's to your left. To check out all of our Carving Up merch. We've got hoodies. We've got t-shirts. We've got hats. We've got shorts. We've got pants. We got stuffed teddy bears. We got pillows. We got coffee mugs. Any and everything that you can possibly imagine as it relates to Carving Up merch to rep the brand. You can check that out right there. Scan the QR code. Check out our Grid Network website. This link right here will take you to the Carving It Up merch, but definitely scroll the website. Look at the All Even Podcast merch, Ryan Flowers, Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday, or NFL matchups, rather. You look at Boston Sports Summit, Saturday Morning Tailgate, all of the Grid Network shows. You can check them out on the Grid's website. So scan that link, scan the QR code above right there. Check out Carving It Up merch. Check out Grid Network merch. If you don't want to get any of the Carving It Up merch or All Even or Boston Sports Summit, just get Grid merch. I've got a Grid hat upstairs. Worn on the show many times. So definitely check our stuff out. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now to the NBA. A trade that happened last night. Not last night, a couple of nights ago in the NBA, that really is just a head scratcher on a multitude of levels, is Trae Young. And we had heard reports in the days leading up to Wednesday that he and the Hawks were working on a deal to send him somewhere other than the Atlanta Hawks. And you got this kid, Jalen Johnson, coming up. He looks really talented, and Atlanta's trying to kind of reset things, kind of start anew, rebuild with some of the young talent they got there. So they want to move Trae Young and get what they can. Trae Young, all-star caliber point guard, just feels like a million years ago at this point, but 5 years ago, for what it's worth, did lead the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they were in a 2-2 series with Milwaukee before Milwaukee went on to win that series and the NBA title. That's something. I've seen Trae Young play live in Atlanta. Really talented young player, got a good floater. We know about his assist totals, led the league in assists on a number of occasions. Hawks have been a consistent playoff team, albeit in the terrible Eastern Conference. He didn't want to go out west. He didn't even want to go to some of the contenders out east. He said, you know where I want to go? I want to go to the Washington Wizards. Think about that. The organization in which Michael Jordan had his 2-year sympathy run. That's where I want to play. An organization that has not won a championship in almost a half century. An organization that goes through coaches like kids go through a candy store. An organization that's bombed draft pick after draft pick, trade after trade. Had prime John Wall, Bradley Beal. Furthest got was a Game 7 of the second round against the Isaiah Thomas Celtics. And had been arguably the worst organization in the NBA over the last few seasons. Over the last probably 5 or 6 seasons. Maybe the allure for Trae is, okay, I want to build this thing from nothing up to hopefully championship contention. This feels like, for just from the outside looking in, for Trae Young, it is okay, Jalen Johnson's a really talented young player. He's kind of stealing my spotlight in Atlanta. Hawks want to build around him. This young player coming up, understandably so. Who they building around in Washington? Is it the big center they drafted last year? What are we doing? This is an opportunity for me to come in. I'm an all-star caliber guy. Reports are he may not play a single game this year, which makes sense. You're not going to risk getting out there, getting hurt for a team that has a 0.0000% chance of making the playoffs. So you're playing meaningless basketball over the last 3 months of the season. So I get that. You don't want him to, after all the Achilles injuries we saw last year, you don't want Trae to go down and it jeopardize next season for him and halt any momentum whatsoever the Washington Wizards pray to have going into the next NBA year. This feels like, hey, I can get my points. Washington doesn't really draft that well. Not going to win a lot of games, but it's big market. It's DC. We go on the road to, some of the Western Conference opponents like the Lakers and the Warriors and, some of these teams, Denver. Go on the road and get to entertain the road crowd, get to entertain the home crowd. I'll put butts in seats at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. That feels like what Trae Young's priority is at this particular juncture in his career. Because he doesn't play defense at all whatsoever. He might be the worst defensive player in basketball. He's a good assist man. He can score, albeit not terribly efficiently. He's only 6. He's listed 6'2". He looks 6'1". He's slight. That's the reality. So I don't expect much to come out of this trade at all. The return Atlanta got was C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert. Kispert's a solid young player. As for C.J. McCollum, listen, he's an older player. He's a veteran player. He's on an expiring contract. So I don't think Atlanta has the ability to move him at the deadline. I could be wrong on that. but he'll certainly be a free agent, can come in to a team next year, give them 15, 20 points off the bench, can be able to be, a solid scorer. And is a good leadership guy. We know how his impact on the NBA Players Association for years. It's just kind of a meh trade. The shocker for me was that Trae Young requested a trade to the Washington Wizards. Like, that one was like, huh? Atlanta to Washington? Didn't really make sense, other than I'll be the guy instantly. I'll be the guy day one. Butts will be in seats at Capital One Arena. And that's about it. No threat, and there's because the Wizards draft horribly. No threat of a young player coming in and stealing my spotlight the way that Jalen Johnson had started to with the Hawks. That's what it feels like right now with the Trae Young situation. The Ja situation is more simplistic. So reports came out today that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to look to move Ja Morant before the February 5th deadline and build their team around Jaren Jackson Jr. And let this be a lesson to not just to all young athletes, but to all young, talented professionals out there. Talented individuals who are coming up and trying to make their mark in the world, in their particular industry. Work hard, stay the course, be smart, be mature, make good decisions, and things will, if you're talented, it will probably work. Because if Ja had done all the above, Ja Morant's probably one of the 10 best players in basketball. At worst case, 12. This guy comes in, wins Rookie of the Year for the Memphis Grizzlies. Year 2 gets them to the playoffs. Year 3, they're the 2 seed. He's getting a little bit MVP buzz. I think he wins Most Improved Player in 2022. He's out here dropping 40 burgers in the playoffs against the Timberwolves and the Warriors. Gets himself in trouble multiple times the following season. Gets hurt the year after that. Last year, he comes back. The Grizzlies have an unbelievable collapse over the final 2 months of the season to go from being, hey, could they be the 2 seed in the West to, oh, they're playing a playing game, and if they lose, their season's over. If they win, hey, they get to get dusted by Oklahoma City, which they, of course, did. And this year, it's kind of more of the same. They're the 9, 10 seed. They'll probably be in the play-in tournament. Maybe they'll shock somebody and get as the 8 seed. It feels like that's going to be like Phoenix or somebody. This is a lesson in not destroying your personal brand. Ja Morant went from the young, athletic, this kid's going to be the next Derrick Rose, dunking on 7-footers' heads, the handle, the little push shot floater that he had. Didn't have a great jumper, but could improve that. There's a lot of guys who come in who weren't natural, jump shooters who improved over time. And by pure selfishness, to himself, to his family and loved ones, to the Memphis Grizzlies organization, he decided that basketball was not first and foremost in his life. His family, loved ones were not first in most importance in his life, to the point where he's probably one of the least among players, one of the least respected guys in the NBA. I mean, I cannot tell you, I'm not a player. I'm not in NBA circles, but I have to imagine that situation that happened in November, I talked about it on this show. The situation in November when the Memphis Grizzlies were playing the Dallas Mavericks, it was Cam Spencer, his teammate, had a big game. Memphis wins over the Mavs. And Ja's out there talking smack to Klay Thompson at the end of the game. And when Cam Spencer is having his moment, he's interviewed by the local television team that covers the Grizzlies. He's getting his moment to shine. Confetti's coming down. I think it was a home game. Confetti's coming down the arena. Everybody's happy about a Grizzlies win. And they asked Cam Spencer about, being a great shooter and whatever. And Ja Morant intrudes in his interview. I'll tell you, bro from Golden State can't shoot, or something along those lines. Just disrespecting a 4-time champion and a guy who was instrumental to one of the greatest dynasties in league history. And a guy who's universally beloved around the league in Klay Thompson. You just out of nowhere just disrespected his entire career. Like, you're a jerk. Like, guys don't like you. Players don't like you. Organizations are tepid to make a move for you. I read a report. Oh, dear Lord, if this happens. I read a report saying that the Clippers might be interested. God, just Ballmer's just intent on digging this hole deeper, huh? I mean, my goodness. If that happens, oh my gosh. Poverty franchise if you ever seen one. But it's nothing about this is surprising in any way, shape, or form. So if you're Memphis, honestly, you whatever the best package is, you get what you can. You get what you can. If you got to trade Ja within the West, who cares? He's not going to beat you in the playoffs for years to come. And it's not like Memphis is a well-run organization to begin with, but this has been the biggest headache that you've had over the last 7 years. And just about all the problems you've had in your franchise, 85, 90% have stemmed from number 12. That's just the reality of it. So I'm shocked they haven't done it sooner, to be frank. And I think the only question about whether he'll get dealt or not is whether other teams of note will want to make a move for him. Injury history, bad defensive player, average at best shooter, and an off-court distraction, and kind of a jerk. Doesn't sound like an attractive trade asset, if you ask me. Okay, we're going to take another break. When we come back, I can't wait for this. NFL playoff predictions. All 6 wildcard games. I'll have my upset of the week. I'll have Bryson's Bleak Bet, and I'll have my favorite segment of all time. A segment, by the way, which had not been going well for the majority of this year. And I'm thinking, God, this is going to be embarrassing. Wait a second. I'm on a 9-game winning streak on If I Were a Bet Man. Well, guess what? After this weekend, it's going to be a 12-game winning streak because we're going to have 3 winners for you. If you're a betting person, definitely listen to the segment we have ahead. I will predict all 6 NFL playoff games after this 1-minute break on Carving Up Live. Do not go anywhere, folks. Back to Carving Up Live. I appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Friday. Listen, this is one of my favorite weeks of the entire NFL season, or one of my favorite weekends of the entire NFL season, because you get obviously you got now that you had the first round buys of Seattle and Denver. Hold on, I'm just making sure this is doing what it's supposed to do, uploading it. Listen, the YouTube live, making sure stuff is getting on the channel as it should, because so I'm doing an AFC playoff team, biggest strengths and weaknesses, that's uploading right now. So check it out. Probably in a half hour or so on Carving Up's YouTube channel. Regardless, we've got 6 games coming up this weekend. 5 of the 6, we know what the one game that is, that's the reason the NFL's getting it out of the way right off the bat. I'm talking about you, Rams and Panthers. You've got 5 of 6 games that I find utterly fascinating in a multitude of different ways. Of course, the last of which involves my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Can we win a playoff game for the first time since 2016? To be the 2016 season, January of 2017 was the last time the Steelers came out victorious in a playoff matchup. I've got a bad Tomlin stat to bring up. I've got a good Tomlin stat to bring up, and I'm also going to show some graphics, to look at some of the playoff matchups that we are going to see. So let's go ahead and get the background music going right now. It is NFL Playoff Predictions 2025 Wild Card Round. Here we go. All right, we will start, of course, with the first game. We will start with Bryson's Bleak Bets. 1 game each and every week that I have absolutely zero confidence in predicting. But hey, you got to predict them all. I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams, the Carolina Panthers from Charlotte, from Bank of America Stadium. The Rams, massive road favorites over the NFC South champion Panthers, the 8-9 NFC South champion Carolina Panthers. Rams are a 10.5 point favorite. Huge road favorite for a playoff. So, on face value, it's, oh God, the Rams are going to crush them. Stafford is, in my view, in view of a lot of folks, the MVP of the league. Puka Nacua has been arguably the best receiver in football. Him or Jackson Smith-Njigba. You got Devontae Adams reportedly coming back from injury. Kyron Williams is an elite running back. Sean McVay, Dave Canales has done a great job of this team this year. McVay's obviously the more experienced coach. Top, in my opinion, top 2 coach in the league. Super Bowl champion, the whole bit. The problem is, though, a couple of things. Is the fact that the Los Angeles Rams have had some really, really strange losses this year. The blown 19-point lead second half to Philly. A 19-point lead blown in the second half to the Philadelphia Eagles. The game in which you lose at home to Mac Jones and a bunch of practice squad guys in San Francisco. Like, how does that happen? The game you lose to the Carolina Panthers, who they're playing, obviously, in their first playoff game, in which Stafford has multiple turnovers. There's a pick six, an interception at the end to wrap it. Bryce Young plays the game of his life. The game in which you lose to Seattle's up 16 in the fourth quarter and blow it in overtime on a 2-point conversion. And then, of course, the Atlanta Falcons, which I feel like the Rams kind of let their foot off the gas, losing that game to Atlanta. That and the fact that their defense, as much as we like the personnel, specifically up front, Jared versus Byron Young. You've heard me wax poetic about both those guys all season long. Since that game to Carolina, November 30th, from that point to now, the Rams defense has been one of the worst in the NFL. We can show you those numbers. They've been terrible since week 13. 27th in points allowed, yards per game allowed, pass yards per game allowed, and they are 23rd in rush yards per game allowed. We know Carolina likes to run the football with Rico Dowdle in particular. They want to work Bryce Young out of the play action. That's concerning if you're a Rams fan. But there's also the element of, don't overthink this. It's hard to beat a good team twice. It's really hard to beat a good team twice when you don't have close to the roster of that good team. So, listen, I would advise you to stay away from this line. It's 10.5. I would go with the Los Angeles Rams to win this game at 31-16 over the Carolina Panthers. I feel like this is a game that the Rams get off to a crazy hot start. Maybe they let their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Panthers and their fans get a little bit of hope. It's at home, Bank of America in Charlotte. I don't see them. Let's just put it this way. I don't love the 10.5-point spread, but I'll tepidly take it because the Rams are a significantly better football team. All right. On to our next game. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for an AFC North matchup featuring the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Green Bay, the 7 seed. Think about this. The 7 seed on the road against the 2 seed is the favorite in this spot. Green Bay is favored by 1.5. So, man, I went back and forth on this one. Y'all know how much I've loved the Bears all year, but I picked the Packers to win the NFC North before the season started prior to, you'll have to go back and look, prior to the Micah Parsons trade, which happened days after I made the prediction Green Bay would win the division. Green Bay kind of fell apart. A lot of that due to the Micah injury, a lot of that due to Jordan Love getting hurt in the last time the Bears played the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, according to Matt LaFleur, could have been healthy or could have been ready to go next week against Minnesota. Had that game mattered, it didn't. Sat Jordan Love a week. Now you're ready to go against the Chicago Bears defense that is bottom 5 in virtually every major statistical category. But in the case of Green Bay, been a pretty inconsistent offensive year. In particular, games they struggled to close at the end. Lost 10-7 to Philly. You lose a game in which your defense gives up 10 points. How does that happen? How do you lose a game to Joe Flacco and the Browns in which you're up by 10 points in the final 5 minutes? How do you lose to the Carolina Panthers at home in Green Bay when your defense gives up 16 points? 7 of those came on a pick six. Or not pick six, a pick that put Carolina deep in Green Bay territory. But we know about division rivalries. Familiarity, LaFleur, Ben Johnson, they've been not necessarily coaching against each other because they're both offensive guys, but they've been in the same division for 4 years now as offensive play callers. Ben Johnson, the 3 years with the Lions, this year with the Bears. LaFleur's obviously been in Green Bay since 2019. And there's not a lot of love lost between these two guys. LaFleur is not a huge fan of Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, his first press conference, opening press conference as the Bears head coach, flamed the feud to say, yeah, I can't wait to beat Matt LaFleur twice a year. Okay. First matchup, Green Bay wins on a Caleb Williams interception in the final 30 seconds. The matchup a few weeks ago was one of the games of the year. Chicago down 10 points, final 3 minutes, send it to overtime. Caleb Williams wins it with a bomb to DJ Moore. I expect this to be an excellent game. It's reportedly going to be really, really windy, really, really cold in Chicago. That city's going to live up to his name this week. It was the Windy City. I get the Bears as a 1-point home underdog. I think I'm going to take that. Give me the Bears the Chicago Bears by a final score of 20-17. Low scoring affair. The win's going to have a lot of factors. Not going to be a big Jordan Love, Caleb Williams game. But given the inclement weather, who does that favor? The team that can run the football better, which is obviously the Chicago Bears, who have been the best or second best rushing team in the NFL. Whether it's with Kyle Monungai, DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams can move. The elements are going to favor Chicago. Obviously, the home field advantage. That crowd's going to be going insane. The Bears haven't won a playoff game at home since 2010. They're going to get an opportunity to do it against their hated rival who's owned them for years. Oh, that place is going to be going crazy. Give me the Bears, 20-17 over the Green Bay Packers. It is now time for my favorite segment of all time. It is called
Bettin' Man.
If I Were a Bettin' Man. God, this is easy money, folks. I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills going on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I say that's just that Vegas is giving you free money. Couple of reasons for that. Number one, the Buffalo Bills had the worst rushing defense in the entire NFL. Jacksonville is Travis Etienne. That's bad news. Jacksonville has, since Thanksgiving, we've done this stat for a month, the best quarterback in the league since Thanksgiving. Show Trevor Lawrence the last 6 games. First in touchdowns. First, really last in interceptions. Second total yards per game. Second pass rating. First in QBR. Second are the Jags in terms of team points per game. And, of course, first in records. 6-0 in their last 6 games. Trevor has been phenomenal in that stretch. Pass defense for Buffalo is excellent. The problem is the fact that, obviously Jacksonville can run the football effectively. Also, something that flies a little under the radar. Now, to be clear, I love Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is one of the 5 greatest natural talents we've ever seen in the history of the league at the quarterback position. In no particular order, we're talking Aaron Rodgers, we're talking Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dan Marino, John Elway. Those, to me, are the 5 greatest talents I think that's ever played in the history of the league. Not the 5 greatest quarterbacks, the 5 greatest talents. But this haste to anoint him, and it's been going on for years, clearly, without question, the best quarterback, the best player in the entire NFL. Well, he has 1 league MVP. He has no Super Bowl appearances, and he does not have an iconic playoff moment in a win in his career. He doesn't have it. He was amazing in that one game. Remember, they lost to Kansas City 2021? And also, who's he beaten? Because his playoff numbers are excellent. But who's he beaten to do it? Who are the quarterbacks he's had to face in order to advance the postseason? These are the quarterbacks Josh Allen's beaten in the playoffs. Phillip Rivers, an old Phillip Rivers. Lamar Jackson twice, to his credit. Mac Jones. Shout-outs to current Steeler quarterbacks Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph. And rookie Bo Nix. The quarterbacks Josh Allen has lost in the playoffs are as follows. Deshaun Watson, Houston, back when Deshaun was an excellent quarterback. Joe Burrow. And 4 times Patrick Mahomes. In fact, Josh Allen's the only quarterback in the history of the league to be 0-4 against a quarterback in the postseason. That's never happened before. 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes. So if you're ahead of Mahomes, you need to be in the playoffs. Obviously, not going to get the opportunity to do that this year. But now that Mahomes is gone, now that the excuse that he's out of the picture is gone, you dang well better go on a playoff run. Mahomes has carried bad defenses to deep playoff runs. Joe Burrow's carried bad defense to deep postseason runs. What you going to do if you're in that caliber of player? Or if you're that caliber of player? The problem is the matchup favors the Jacksonville Jaguars. If I were a bet man, give me the Jags plus 1.5, and they win this game outright 27-20 over the Buffalo Bills. I'm getting a 13-win team. This is free money. I'm getting a 13-win team with the best quarterback in the league since we carved up our turkeys on Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving dinner. As a dog at home? Are you kidding me? Thank you very much, Vegas. I will take that. Jags plus 1.5. If I were a bet man, I would take that. On to our next game for my favorite segment of all time. It is called
Bettin' Man.
If I were a bet man, I don't know what the betting public sees in this game. Niners and Eagles. San Francisco 49ers and the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are a touchdown favorite in this game. -6. Now, the line opened. When the schedule was first announced during Sunday Night Football, Steelers-Ravens, immediately I go and check, okay, what do the lines look like? And by and large, they haven't changed a ton. This one's flipped a lot. San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles. It opened at Eagles minus 3.5. It's like, okay, that feels fair. 6? A touchdown for a team that does not blow teams out? Does not blow playoff teams out? Are you kidding me? With an offense in the Philadelphia Eagles that, if my numbers serve me correctly, 29th in scoring in the fourth quarter of this season. I think they're like 26th in the NFL in terms of second half scoring this year. An offense that dies with Kevin Patullo as the offensive play caller. That's not great. Listen, I understand San Francisco cannot get to the quarterback. They're the worst pass rush team in the entire NFL without Nick Bosa. And Fred Warner is not a pass rusher, but Fred Warner, that defense obviously changes everything. Both are gone for the year. But come on. I'm not saying I trust Brock Purdy trailing. Y'all know I've given the stat multiple times. He's got like a 74 passer rating when trailing in the second half of games in his career. But in this spot, against Philadelphia as a 6-point dog, that feels like a San Francisco 49ers cover. I'm going to take the Eagles to win, but in a low-scoring affair, 20-16, bad weather, cold weather against the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey, listen, defense is a game plan for him all year, and he's been amazing. I mean, yeah, so I think this is the situation. Niners compete. Philadelphia wins this game outright by a final score of 20-16. If I were a bet, man, Niners +6, that is an insane spread. Jacksonville's a surprising one. That I don't know what the betting public sees in giving Philadelphia a touchdown advantage. On our next game, Sunday Night Football, Los Angeles Chargers taking on the New England Patriots. The Patriots at home are a 3.5-point favorite. So what I look at in this spot is I say, okay, on one side of the coin, you say, well, Jim Harbaugh is the far more experienced coach than Vrabel. Although Vrabel has been to an AFC Championship game back in 2019 in Tennessee, but he only has 2 playoff wins. Jim Harbaugh has gone to 3 conference championship games, albeit it happened 15 years ago, basically, 2011 to 2013. Went to a Super Bowl. Took over the Niners, was great immediately. So the experienced coach, by definition of Drake May, this being Drake May's first start and this being Justin Herbert's third playoff start, Herbert's the more experienced quarterback. And let's be honest, with the Chargers' offensive line issues, the fact the Patriots really can't get to the quarterback that well, that favors LA in a major way. The fact that Jim Harbaugh is a guy who wants to run the football, the fact that Jesse Minter, who's getting head coach interviews, is as good as he is, the Chargers defense is as good as it is, the fact that the New England Patriots have one of the easiest schedules literally in the history of the NFL that they beat up on. We'll go and show you that graphic if we have it. Here you go. 8 easiest schedules since the merger. What do those 8 teams have in common? They all had good records. Now, 99 Rams won the Super Bowl. 72 Dolphins won the Super Bowl. So this isn't a death sentence for the Patriots. It's just to say, if you get one of the 8 easiest schedules in the history of the NFL since the merger, by definition, you're going to have a good record. And the Patriots are only 1-2 against playoff teams this season. That said, I think Drake May is phenomenal. I think this is going to be a guy that dominates the league for a decade plus. Vrabel, if he gets Coach of the Year, won't have an issue with it. He's been amazing. This receiving core in New England's been better than expected. They run the football with Travion Henderson and with, Ramondre Stevenson, who had a big game last week against Miami. And on the Chargers side, I love the coach. I love the defense. I don't love the O-line, but I don't think New England can necessarily expose that in this game. You know what I don't love? Justin Herbert in the playoffs. Show those numbers. They're not good. Justin Herbert in the playoffs. He has 2 pass touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions. He has a 60 passer rating, and he's 0-2 in those 2 losses. First of which, a game in which his Chargers led 27-0 on Jacksonville, lost. One of the biggest playoff choke jobs in NFL history. Oh, that was Brandon Staley. Well, you go on the road to Houston as a favorite against a struggling Texans offense, and he threw more picks in that game than you had the entire regular season. Herbert's not, thus far what we've seen, is not a playoff performer. So I expected the change going on the road to Foxborough. I'll be honest. I'm not crazy about the 3.5-point line because of how good the LA Chargers defense is. I will take it, though. I think New England wins this game. Some playoff jitters early. I think Drake May maybe struggles a little bit, but he'll turn it on in the fourth quarter. Patriots will run the football 24-16 over the Los Angeles Chargers in the wild card round. New England wins over LA 24-16 in this spot. Okay. So here's the thing. This is tough. There are 2 really convincing stats with my Pittsburgh Steelers in their upcoming game against the Houston Texans. Monday Night Football with Houston as a 3.5-point favorite. There's two stats. One that'll make you say, oh, absolutely taking Houston. One, oh, Pittsburgh, you're definitely going with the Steelers here. As many of you out there know, I have been a skeptical Steelers fan, a Steelers fan who has had trouble buying in with a team with an old quarterback, questionable O-line, lack of depth at receiver, and the 26th ranked defense in football, and a coach who hasn't won a playoff game in a decade. Nonetheless, here we are, 10-7, home playoff game at Acrisure Stadium. Those terrible towels gonna be waving like crazy. Make sure that priest shows up, by the way, that, pour the holy water in that end zone last week. Make sure he's in Pittsburgh Monday night. I'm sure they will. Here's the stat that makes you say, ugh. Like that, yeah, this is a big Pittsburgh Steelers advantage. And for some reason, we can't get the graphic on. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, the YouTube video version of this, you can see the graphic right now. The live version, we're having some technical difficulties. Mike Tomlin on Monday Night Football is like one of the greatest coaches in the history of football. If you're watching the YouTube video, you can see the graphic right now, and I'm looking at it on my computer screen on a different tab. The Steelers average 24 points a game. They only give up 16 points a game. 16 round that up to 17, 16.8. They have a plus 16 turnover differential. They have a 22-3 record, and they are 12-0 at home under Mike Tomlin on Monday Night Football. Well, guess what? Check your calendars. This game's going to be playing on Monday Night Football on ESPN and ABC. That's the good news for the Steelers. The bad news is the last 8 years, the last 8 postseasons, in which the Pittsburgh Steelers have started off this way in their last 5 playoff games. If I had a dime for every time I use this stat on this show. Down 21-0 to the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2017, at home, mind you. Down 28-0 to the Cleveland Browns, at home, mind you. Down 35-7 in 2021 to the Kansas City Chiefs. Down 21-0 to the Buffalo Bills in 2023. And last year against a team, you always play close games with the Ravens. Nope, not in the playoffs. Down 21-0 on the road against the Baltimore Ravens last year in 2024 in the postseason. So will that be the case this year against the Houston Texans? I think this is going to be a close game. So I think no. I think with DK Metcalf back in the lineup, that's huge for a Pittsburgh Steelers team, and for an Aaron Rodgers, pretty darn fantastic in the fourth quarter on Sunday night with Calvin Austin, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Adam Thielen, Scotty Miller. I mean, a pretty darn limited receiving core. Now you get DK Metcalf back in the lineup, who is your deep ball threat. The problem is you're facing Houston Texans D-line that's got 2 guys in the top 10 in sacks this year. I think Danielle Hunter is 3rd, if I remember correctly, and Will Anderson is 10th. They can get to the quarterback with the best of them. That doesn't make me feel the best. Here's what I know, though. Against good teams this year, against playoff teams this year, CJ Stroud, 6 touchdowns, 7 picks, 6-7. It's not good in those spots. On the road, he's never won a playoff game. He's 0-2. Lost on the road in Baltimore, lost on the road in Kansas City. Pittsburgh ain't exactly an easy place to play, especially in the cold for a dome team and a dome quarterback. This is the double whammy. It is now time for my favorite segment of all time, and really we just kind of did this segment.
We're a betting man.
And also, by extension, my upset of the week. I think it's going to happen, folks. Give me my Pittsburgh Steelers over the Houston Texans, 24-23. I think we win it in the reverse of the way we won it on Sunday Night Football against Baltimore with a Chris Boswell game-winning field goal. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been clutch throughout his career. He was clutch on Sunday night, and I think he'll be clutch on Monday Night Football, where Tomlin, despite all his flaws, despite the fact the Steelers have the worst fourth quarter defense in football by a mile, I think the Steelers blow the lead. They hang on for dear life, blow the lead, and Aaron Rodgers, a man I've been pretty hard on all year, and in spots it's been fair. But with DK Metcalf back in the lineup, the Steelers will get the W. Which means my predictions go as follows. Bryson's Bleak bet. I've got the Rams. Certainly I've got the Rams winning. It's just the 10.5 I'm not crazy about on the road. 31-16 over the Carolina Panthers. I've got the Green Bay Packers. I've got the Chicago Bears, rather. 20-17 plus 1.5 over the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night. I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars on my first if I were a Betman game, plus 1.5 and winning 27-20 over the Buffalo Bills. On my second if I were a Betman game, I've got the Niners plus 6, but Philadelphia winning outright 20-16. The defending champs aren't going out at home in the wild card, right? Like that's not going to happen. I don't believe this Eagles team is going to do that. I also think the Niners are running out of bodies. I also believe the Eagles suck in the second half of games offensively, and that's going to allow the Niners to cover a touchdown spread. Sunday Night Football, I've got the Patriots minus 3.5, 24-16 over the LA Chargers. And finally, my last, if I were a Betman game, and my upset of the week, I've got my Pittsburgh Steelers 24-23 over the Houston Texans. Steelers plus 3.5, however you want to slice it, would still be the upset of the week here on Carving It Up Live. Steelers win, and if that happens, I will have to honor a promise I made at the beginning of the season, in particular to my guy Alfred Parsard Jr., but to the audience as well. That if Aaron Rodgers, who I've had my issues with over the last few years on this show, leadership, decline in play, throwing teammates under the bus, the whole bit, drama. I said, if he breaks the Tomlin streak, if he overcomes Mike Tomlin's coaching deficiencies and wins a playoff game, which will be the Steelers' first in 9 years, he will get a full-throated apology from yours truly on Carving It Up following the game. I'm a man of my word, and I hope to be making that apology. Because if the Steelers can beat the Texans, based on the way I think the playoffs are going to shake out, Pittsburgh's going to Denver. You know I don't buy Denver. Could the Steelers fall into the AFC Championship? Maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself, but crazier things have happened. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live. Oh, what a dandy it's going to be. On Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, X, Instagram, and on Facebook. But before that, for some college football playoff reaction, tune in tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, to the Saturday Morning Tailgate podcast. Myself and Arthur Hurst. Tim is going to be out this week, but it'll be myself and Arthur reacting to the 2 playoff games, some of the transfer portal news, SEC dominance coming to an end potentially. Tons to get into tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube and on Twitter on the Grid Network. We hope you will stop by and watch that. And definitely, oh my gosh, catch Carving It Up Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. We'll react to the first 5 playoff games, of course, do some pregame analysis for my Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Houston Texans at home. Renegade better be going loud and clear in the fourth quarter. I have a feeling Acrisure Stadium is going to be rocking on Monday night. Steelers fans, y'all do your thing. All right, we'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy some playoff football. Stay safe out there. Fight for justice. God bless y'all. Peace out. I have a good feeling about the Steelers, I think. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.